Welcome to Arsenal Above All. Well, how was your Sunday and how was your weekend? Pretty special. Arsenal 3, Manchester United, the old enemy, won. We did it again. We've done them again. Last minute, 2 seasons in a row. Fantastic stuff. I've got Neil Shah with me, and I've got Lauren Dempsey with a debut cap tonight. We're going to be talking about the performance and everything else that comes with it in a spectacular end to the game. So all that's left to say is let's go. Welcome to the show. I have Neil Shah with me. How you doing, Neil? Still buzzing?
Still buzzing. Unbelievable. What a way to beat them lot. Unbelievable. 2 seasons on the road as well. I just can't. Yeah. I just want what's his name? Rashford to score amazing goals against us, because every time he does that, we score back straight away and then end up winning in the last minute. So if that's the trend, let it be every season. I don't care if it's no clean sheet. It's good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah, can't seem to keep a clean sheet at home again, but that's something we'll discuss. But also joining me tonight, as I mentioned earlier, making her debut on Arsenal Above All, it's fantastic to have Lauren Dempsey with me from the It's an Arsenal Thing podcast. Brilliant show with Tom Phoebe. Lauren, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. Really looking forward to discussing this match. I think maybe in the 25th minute, I kind of thought, God, we're going to have nothing to talk about, but plenty to discuss. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it with you guys.
Indeed. Thanks very much for being here and yourself, Neil. I was thinking the same after 25 minutes. I was like, oh no, Rashford again. He's done us again. Lightning has struck twice. But then it was a weird game where things what seemed to happen last season happened again. You know, it was always a repeat against our eternal enemies in the Premier League. But starting off, I mean, I listened to you guys on Tom's show last week, and you were talking about the team and what you would like to see, and obviously after Fabio Vieira's unbelievable cameo against Fulham. I'll start with you, Lauren. What was your? Obviously he didn't feature in the lineup to start, but obviously Gabriel was back. What was your thoughts when the lineup dropped, and were you happy with that? And do you think that change would have been made had Thomas Partey not had that injury, which we had everybody not still kind of freaking out, thinking, no, not again. But what was your thoughts on that? When the lineup dropped.
Yeah, I think it was actually Thomas Partey's injury that had me thinking about the lineup even the night before, when the news came out from the Ghana national team that he wasn't going to be joining them with injury. I kind of made a joke and I said, I think everyone wished this injury upon him just to get back to the back four that we wanted. However, I do still believe that's our best back four. I probably think I'm of the opinion he would have started. I think he probably would have started, and Rice would have probably played a slightly more attacking position, maybe where Kai Havertz has been playing. Because I do think that's probably our strongest 11 on paper. In terms of back four is exactly what I wanted. Ramsdale in goal. I think we kind of discussed maybe we would see Raya, but it's a massive game. It's probably not the best time to drop in a player to the starting 11 with that much pressure on him, because it was a must-win game. It really have to set a tone for the season going forward, coming up to the first international break. But yeah, no, I was delighted with the back four. In terms of the midfield, I think there's one name there that everyone was kind of questioning, and that is obviously Havertz. We mentioned Vieira starting, and I think he made such a great impact when he came off the bench that I really didn't see him jumping straight into the starting 11, so I wasn't particularly surprised that his name wasn't there. Like I said, if Partey had been fit, I think he would have played that central midfield role. And in terms of the front three, I was delighted. I think Nketiah has shown such a passion, such a fire this season. Obviously, I wasn't really sure where Jesus was with his injury. So overall, I think all in all, it's probably one of our strongest starting 11s that we could have played. And I don't think you can take a risk against a team like United. I said before, they're not a team that I feel are a threat in the long term in terms of pushing for a title this season. However, you can't take any game against them for granted and play a weaker team. But overall, I thought it was a solid 11 to field, and like I said, delighted to see that back four back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because it's interesting, Neil, because Arteta in the press conference before the game, he mentioned about Partey, and he said he felt that he would have played in a different position to where he played already this season, which for me said, like Lauren, he would have. I think he would have played centre midfield, and Rice would have played as a left 8, and Havertz would have had to have taken the seat. Because I think, again, as Lauren says, I think it's United. I think it's the better teams, the more dangerous teams. I don't think he can get away with that system he's playing. He can only kind of do that against teams that he knows for a fact he's going to get like complete domination over, in terms of possession. But was you happy with? Obviously, you were happy with Gabriel being in there, but I know you're obviously. You have a lot of flags to your mast. You have Trossard, and now Vieira after what he did last week. But again, were you happy with that? Do you think this is what he has to stick with, especially with the games we've got coming up and what we've got coming up with the Champions League and what have you? What was your thoughts on that as well, and obviously how he went into the game as well, how we started off with the sort of passive way we went about closing United down?
Lineup wise, yeah. I mean, I think I was more than satisfied. I was just glad to see a traditional, if you like, now back four in place. I just thought if we're going to stick with this Partey experimentation as him as an inverted right back, I thought no, it's not doing us any favours. And is it only in place to cater for a particular player? I still had reservations with Havertz, and not so much because I'm going to sit here criticising him. I'm feeling that he's a player with no confidence at the moment. And I feel to keep pushing him to play and expecting him to do something, it could go one of two ways. It could work out in his favour, and he could have, planted that ball in the net that he miskicked, or that could happen, and that could make things even worse for him. And I just feel that I think I said it on the pod, Lauren, with you and Tom, that I think if he's going to come on as a substitute, don't start him. I think it's just too much pressure. We've got good enough players that can play in his position, waiting there to come on. We've got them. We've got the Trossards. We've got Vieira now. We've got Emma Smith-Rowe. And I just still feel that Arteta is. I think I can see him starting against Everton. I really can. I'll be shocked if he doesn't. But with that exception, I think, I'm glad actually Eddie started because he deserved it. I know when Jesus came on, he looked unbelievable again. He's the same old Jesus that we were used to especially at the start of last season. So I was absolutely thrilled to bits. But I think it was more than fair to start Eddie again. He's done enough to warrant a starting place. So other than Havertz, I was quite pleased with what I saw. I just saw going back to last season's lineup, as Lauren was saying, it's probably our strongest that we've got. So happy. I was a little bit kind of. I thought we should have been going for the jugular from the get go. I thought that they were, this low deep block, or whatever you want to call it, and I thought we were just standing back and letting them pass in their own area. The goalkeeper apparently had some of the most touches in the whole game. He had 36 touches or something in the first half, something ridiculous. Yeah, and I'm just thinking, why didn't we? They are not, as Lauren said, they're not the team at the moment. You can't take any team for granted, especially Man U. Yeah. But I think we're in a much stronger position to take advantage of their frailties, and we could have gone on and got 2 or 3 goals very quickly if we really wanted to. But we just held back, and I thought you were right. I think we were quite passive, and we were almost like there was no high press at all. There was a couple of attacking moves, but it wasn't with vigour. It just wasn't with vigour, and maybe it was because Arteta was scared that we were going to concede another first-minute goal. I don't know whether we were being overcautious and we maybe being too respectful to Man U. I'm not sure, but I would have liked to have seen that played a bit differently. I think they were there for the taking, and it could have. At the end, academically, it all worked out fine for us. However, it could have gone if that offside wasn't given. It would have worked out against us. So that's one thing I was a little bit kind of iffy about yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. For me, watching it looked like we were kind of scared of getting caught on the counter with with Rashford, because he was the only danger, and that's why it was so disappointing when he scored the goal. Everybody knew what he was going to do, show him down the line, don't get him onto your right foot, and that's why it was so annoying when it happened. But do you think, Lauren, the way we set up, was it tactically, or do you think it was a combination of we just knew how much was at stake here? Because I saw Odegaard a lot of times, he was waving Havertz forward. He was trying to get him to start higher up the pitch, to maybe get United locked in a little bit more. And he was getting really frustrated. And you saw when he scored the goal, Odegaard, the way he was celebrating, he kind of, was really sort of pumped up and just ran off to the centre circle. It wasn't like, normally when Arsenal score a goal, everyone goes in a group and they stay there for about a minute. They have a little team talk and then they go back. But this time he was like, no, he was off. He was like, no, let's get this game done. So there was a little bit of frustration there from Odegaard. But did you think it was maybe just it kind of fell down with Havertz a little bit, maybe to put the blame in him too much? Or do you just think it was the way United played? They just were so cautious, like Neil said, for all the passes that Onana played, they were all just sideways passes, and it was just like a mid to relegation side coming to a big side and just trying to chance their luck sort of thing. What do you think? Do you think it was purposely done, or do you think it was maybe a combination of a couple of factors?
Yeah, it's a good point for sure. And I think actually the word I have here in the notes is cautious. And I'm glad both of you said it as well, because I felt like the first 20 minutes or so was more like a chess match than a game of football. And every move was so tactical and there was just no risk taken at all. And I think that probably comes off the back of two teams who've conceded very early in the previous week. It's such a massive game. And I think both teams went out there knowing, like you said, exactly everything that was at stake. And they didn't want to give away those goals too early. And I think, Odegaard's reaction, first of all, Odegaard had a fire in him yesterday that was second to none. He was leading that line. And, there was a few poor performances. And I don't want to just point at Havertz, but I think, the passion that Odegaard had was enough to carry us. And I think Martinelli had a great game as well. So I think, the link-up play they had to get that goal back in very quick succession was amazing. And like I said, I don't really want to point the fingers and say it was a bad performance from player X, player Y. I think overall there was something that was a bit lacking as well. Maybe it's going back to that formation that we haven't played with yet so far this season. Very, very heavy game, let's call it. It was very difficult for either teams to really get going. Like you said, there was points where I just thought, are we going to watch these, the back three, including the goalkeeper, just, do this for the next 20 minutes? I can't be, I was thinking, oh God, it's going to be a long day. But, I think it was tactical from both sides, actually, to start very slow and cautiously. And I just don't think they wanted to take that risk and let that goal go. And as soon as, the Rashford goal was interesting because I think, it came from a poorly executed pass from Havertz again, but we saw Saka do the exact same last week, and no one was pointing the fingers at him saying, he's cost us a goal or he's cost us the 2 points against Fulham. Eriksen picked the pass very, very well, and Rashford took the opportunity perfectly. That's exactly, to be completely honest with you, the only player who really strikes fear into me from this United team is Rashford. I think every other player, we're more than capable of going pound for pound with them. And once he got that bit of space as well, and I think, I really think Ben White probably could have done a bit better. I think him and Saliba ended up doubling up. And, and again, it comes back to Ben White having played centre-back for the past 4 weeks. And I think he kind of got caught out of position. He looked more as though he was trying to defend there when Saliba was in behind him. But yeah, look, it was the perfect response to, I don't even say it was a moment of lack of concentration, but that was just the stakes that we were playing for there. And I think United showed exactly how clinical they can be when we take one step out of place, or we don't play that high press the way that we want, or with the same intensity that we want. But it was a very strange first half. It was a very, very strange first half in general. Nothing really happened apart from that 90-second goal flurry. But I think it does come mostly off the back of last week, and both managers probably said, look, stay focused the first half, don't let anything slip. And basically it was off lacks of concentration that the 2 goals came from in the first half.
Do you think, Neil, it seemed like it was like, again, it was very much a chess match. It was almost like a Champions League like sort of level game where it was just so cautious and so two teams that were just like and didn't want to have these traps and didn't want to fall into their one. And it's funny that the way they got their goal was because of the pass from Havertz, the blind pass from Havertz. And I hate those sort of passes, just blindly across the midfield. They totally disrupt things. Going back, we've seen Vieira. How many times have we seen Vieira do those passes like that when he came to Arsenal? And obviously, remember the one that Giggs scored. It came from a Vieira pass a blind pass across the middle, and then that was it. He used to do that all the time. And I think after that, he never did it again. I don't know if Havertz is going to do that, but just talking on Havertz, again, this is not bashing him because obviously there's talent there. There's something there. Arteta's gone to bat for him, in the press conference and what have you. But if you look at Pep Guardiola, people always say, if you want to see what Arteta's doing, look at what Guardiola's doing, and maybe he's going towards that direction. He got Jack Grealish for £100 million, as we know, and he played a couple of games, as we know, and he didn't really find his rhythm, and he was, taken out the side. He was left, on the bench, and people were talking about it. And last season he wins a treble, and he's a different kind of player. He's not the swashbuckling Grealish who gets the ball and drives past people. He doesn't beat anyone anymore. So he's become accustomed to the system. Do you think that needs to happen to Havertz? Because as you said earlier, we've got the frustrating thing. We've got players that can go into that position and produce numbers straight away. Trossard could do it. ESR could do it. Vieira, he's done it. So the fact that we're kind of playing with 10.5 maybe, and players, this guy just isn't doing it at the moment where we know we can get someone else in who will produce, pretty much straight away. Do you think? Yeah, I mean, how long do you think Havertz has got in that? Can we afford to give him that luxury? Because I wouldn't play him against Everton, because I just think against Everton, Onana and Zakore, they're just going to be all over him. They're going to be too powerful for him. But what do you think? Do you think he should maybe go that route, take him out of the firing line for a bit, or just go? Do you think he's just going to go through?
I would take him out. I said it earlier. I think he needs to come out for his own benefit as much as the team's, because if it keeps coming on and mistakes start occurring, maybe because of him or indirectly or directly because of him, it's just going to destroy him. And that could really mentally affect the player. And I don't know. I wouldn't wish that on any player that plays for us. It just wouldn't. I'm not here to bash him or anything like that. I still will go on record to say I can't understand. Arteta and Edu have been so clever recently with their signings. Yeah, they make a couple of mistakes here and there, but generally they've really been cute with it. They're not going to spend 65 million on a player they don't know what we can do with him. Is he just there for the sake of being there? It doesn't make any sense. So they've obviously seen something in him. And at Leverkusen, he was a great player. And I think Chelsea has just completely destroyed him. All right, yeah, he scored the winning goal in the Champions League, but I think generally, Chelsea have just taken him through the washer, and he's come out wrong. Maybe these colours come out, or whatever it is, it's just not worked. And I think it's a rebuilding process, and I think part of that rebuilding process for him is not throwing him in the firing line at the start of every game. I'm not saying take him out the squad, but have him on the bench. And let's see him come on as a cameo, very much like all the other players have to do it. So why can't he do it? There's no reason for him to be starting. I think if we keep playing him and keep starting him, and I think you're right, against Everton, it's going to be nightmarish. Yeah. And look, let me throw a little slight disclaimer in there. What he's done, he hasn't done everything bad. There has been some good stuff from him. But I think, although I don't agree with this phrase, but at the moment, it feels like he's a luxury player. And we can't afford to have luxury players. We're going for we have to keep in tow with Man City, because they're unflappable at the moment, and we're doing that. We've still got 10 points out of 12. We're not even playing great, as far as I'm concerned. If I can just digress quickly, as a result, one of the evidence of that is Saka. I don't think he's particularly had a great start to the season. No. Saka's still Saka. He's still getting the numbers in because he's such a great player. But by his own standards, I don't think he's having the best start of the season. I don't think he's been himself in the last 4 games, especially yesterday. There was missed passes. I mean, he had that clear chance. That Saka last season would have buried that with his eyes closed. So I don't know whether he's got a slight confidence issue. Lippo is just going through a bit of just a bad patch at the moment. I don't know. But even then, he's still getting numbers that just goes to show how good he is. But I just feel that we've got to manage Havertz better. If we don't, it could be another Pepe. I mean, a large loss of money, and we can't afford that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because today it's kind of confirmed that Pepe is off to Besiktas. So it looks like his Arsenal career has finally come to end. And yeah, you kind of see similar traits where he just has this lack of, like, not lack of enthusiasm. It's like kind of killer instinct. The resilience, the ruthlessness to kind of get going. Of course, to be fair, he's got in good positions. Obviously, he got in that position where he produced the air shot. He got in this position where he kind of got that penalty. He tried to manufacture the penalty. You're kind of thinking, just go on and have a shot. So he's got in that position, Lauren. But do you think, I'll throw that to you. Do you think it's the same? Do you think you take him out the firing line, or do you think? I mean, I imagine Arteta is going to kind of persevere with him a little bit, because obviously he's going to be coming back from the international break, and he plays up front for Germany, so he's going to be probably playing up front, maybe banging a couple of goals, and he's going to come back, and hopefully that's what we hope, right? He has a good couple of weeks, and maybe he can bring that into the team. But what would you think? What would you do with him if he was in Arteta's shoes?
Yeah, it's a interesting one, because he is a Premier League player, and I think a lot of teams know how to play against him. Maybe not in the role that he plays, but he's played against probably the majority of the defenders he goes up against. It's not as if it's a new signing that people don't know how to handle. They know what to do with Havertz, and I just think it's a massive confidence issue. There's a big price tag on him. Loads of questions being asked. I mean, how many players did we sign over the summer, and he's the only one who's really under scrutiny, and is, he's been used a bit as a scapegoat. It's tough, because I think Arteta is very stubborn, and I think Arteta likes to prove people wrong. I don't think Everton's the right game to play him against, but look, we're going into a run of Champions League games, cup games coming up as well, and I think, to be honest, why not give him a run in the Champions League? Like you said, Champions League Champions League final goal scorer, got that for Chelsea. Surely he has the confidence to go into that and say, look, I deserve to be here. Let me, how many other players do we have in our squad who can say they've been there, apart from Jorginho? Not many. So I think he has a massive advantage going into those games. Premier League games, however, I do think that with him in this system, we do look a bit more fragile than we would if we had someone else, someone with a bit more confidence. Trossard, Smith Rowe, again, we haven't seen any minutes from him yet, but the likes of Trossard, Vieira, they look like they're playing for fun at the moment. And, I think that's what we need. At the moment, it just looks a bit stiff and nervy when Havertz is there. And I through no fault of his own, look, I mean, he was absolutely villainized at Chelsea. He's come here now, and, he's got a target on his back. Yeah. All we can do is give him our support. And I just think, as you both mentioned there, it's going to be a bit easier if he's brought into it gradually, rather than throwing him straight into a long run of Premier League fixtures and expecting the results just to come without having, a bit of a time to get used to the system. Because he's playing, like you said, he's playing completely out of his regular starting, number 9 role that he plays for Germany, that he was playing for Chelsea as well. So it's interesting. But I think probably best for everyone, not just, us narky Arsenal fans saying we want more. I think in terms of the player, and we saw it with Vieira as well last year, how many questions were hanging over him, and a bit of patience, a few cameos here and there, and he's become an absolute monster. So yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go about the Havertz question, shall we call it?
Yeah, let's hope he has a good couple of weeks away from it, and maybe gets a goal or two. Don't know who Germany are playing, probably some also around or whatever, and maybe he gets 3 or 4 goals or whatever, and then he comes back and with a fresh outlook on things going forward. Neil, we can't go without an Arsenal game without talking about contentious decisions from obviously the fine gentleman at the PGMOL, or Man United's secret sponsors, or whatever you want to call them. Eddie Nketiah gets booted in the head, nothing happens. We get the penalty, which we've seen them. How many of those type of penalties we've seen given? Obviously, we'll remember the David Luiz one against Wolves, where there was literally a tracing paper, clipped his heel, and that was given. And this isn't a penalty. He's been sandwiched by two players and whatever. He's been impeded. I don't know what he's supposed to do. Okay, that's not a penalty. And then we kind of get a little bit of a reprieve with the offside, even though it was offside. I remember in the WhatsApp chat, I said straight away. I said that's offside. You could see it straight away. What do you think of? I mean, we'll probably spin to the little bit further forward. In Ten Hag, in some of his comments at the end, where he lost the plot. I think some people call him the Dutch Phil Mitchell, and I think he was almost putting in an audition for EastEnders with the Sky Boys. It was ridiculous. He was throwing everyone under the bus. He threw Sancho under the bus in the press conference later as well, which is unbelievable. What was your thoughts on all that shenanigans? I'm sure I left something else out. Said Højlund had a penalty which was a given as well.
Gabriel for Rice's winner.
Yeah. So
goes on and on.
It's just the same old story, isn't it?
I think I've become so desensitized to it because it happens to us all the time. It's I almost expect it at every game. Now, whether the penalty, against Havertz was just or not, I don't know. But the point is the fact that it was overruled and reviewed, which normally doesn't happen, like in those situations. Again, that was throwing up some kind of, why is it happening to us? Why is it always us that these things seem to happen? And for me, what was more serious was the kick to Nketiah's head, and for me that was a red.
It wasn't looked at by VAR at all, was it?
It's got to be a red. How come that's not reviewed? Why is that not reviewed? But a feather touch on a penalty, which could have gone either way, is, and they spend so much time on it. And then, of course, they get the sketcher graph out to see if their goal is onside. And that time I was dreading it. I was thinking, God, it's going to go against us. It always does. But luckily, for once, it didn't. I'm just sick of the inconsistency with this. I'm so fed up with the officiating. It's untrue. I do feel that it does happen to all teams. So I'm going to be a football fan here, not just an Arsenal fan. But as an Arsenal fan, it does feel it's more on us. It just seems to be, because I think it happens in the bigger games, and I feel like the referees or the officials want to make the headlines. You had on the panel, we're used to, or the post-match stuff, we're used to seeing ex-footballers or whatnot giving their views, or pundits or whatever. Now they have the Mike Dean show. I mean, it's all become about the referees. Talk about the football match. Don't talk about that rubbish. We've just seen a great end to a classic game against two, stalwart opponents that have been there for history, really, if you think about it. And you're talking about the refereeing because Mike Dean's sitting there wanting to make a name for himself, even though it just riles me, and I just want the consistency. There's too much of it. We're going to get all these inconsistencies. I think we might have talked about it, Lauren, in the other pod, that with this time added on and stuff, that there's going to be inconsistencies with that, and yellow cards being given or not being given, time added on for this but not for that. It's just ridiculous. How I'm even going to go as far as to say that a lot of these officials that we get tend to be, and I know, please don't be offended by this, anyone, but they tend to be from the north. Well, how is that fair when we're a London club? Why can't we start bringing in foreign or overseas referees? Why can't that? So there's impartial. It's impartial. Then you can't have this, because people will, even if they hate where they're from the outside, you're not going to know that, and you're going to start asking questions. And I just feel it's just going on too much, and we seem to get the brunt of this. Everything yesterday could have gone completely against us, and we could have ended up losing 3 points, and that's the big thing about it. And I don't like it. Yeah,
no, well said. I mean, we could have a whole show talking about the referee and then the organisation and how Webb's trying to do and how it's not working. But it definitely seems to have been a massive PR exercise.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. These are just Ten Hag's tears. I'm just drinking them. Thanks.
Nice one. He's probably there. I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, you done me, Neil. You done me. But I just think it's all the stuff that the PGMO are trying to do, it seems like Sky have really backed them with some of the stuff that they've got. Like you said, Mike Dean on there. They've got him in Soccer Saturday. He's there. They're talking about how the referees, have got such a tough job and everything. And they've just got these PR guys behind them trying to push them forward. But they just need to be transparent. That's all they need to be, and consistent. That's the key thing. We need to hear the audio of decisions and stuff like that. The lines and what have you. I mean, Lauren, obviously, you're living in Barcelona. I know that there was some furore about Barcelona last season with some of the revelations that came out about how they may have influenced and certain officiating and stuff. But is it? I mean, I imagine it's the same over there. That people think that the bigger clubs are more favoured. It's particularly Barcelona and Real Madrid. But for me, I've always said with Neil, it's just a lack of transparency. And the consistency, yes, but the transparency, you don't know. You need to hear what's going on in these conversations. But what's your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you watch football at any level. You watch it international. You watch international teams play. You watch different leagues, and it's always the same problem: the referees, the inconsistencies. I think the transparency is a massive factor that we actually really need to get to hear. We need to be hearing those discussions that are being had when the referees are checking. Why are certain decisions brought to VAR? The Havertz penalty yesterday. I mean, people are calling it soft, but what's the player meant to do? And I think people are focusing too much on Wan-Bissaka, but Casemiro's the player that comes in and cuts him off. He doesn't even attempt to get the ball. For me, it's obviously I'm not a trained referee, but for me it's a clear-cut penalty. And if that was against Arsenal, you'd be thinking, oof, probably will go in their favour. And it's just one of those things that, I think overall yesterday I wasn't too upset with the VAR decisions because there was things that went our way, there was things that probably went their way as well. But I just don't think that's how games. I don't think that's the standard that we should have for games, particularly at this level. Yeah. I like Neil's point about getting international referees in. I think that would make it a lot fairer also. But just to go briefly back to your point there about Spain. I mean, I'm sure as everyone's seen the corruption that runs deep in the Spanish Football Federation here, it's basically incurable. So to hear of teams, with the power that are basically generating the money for the league, like Barcelona, Real Madrid, I'm sure they get away with an awful lot, and that's probably why Rubiales remains in his job despite everything that's transpired. And it's really sad because at the end of the day, it's no one suffers other than the players and the fans. And you can write as many sad stories you want about how hard it is to be a referee, but at the end of the day, they're paid a hefty amount to make sure these decisions are fair and to make sure that it's a level playing field and that everybody, the right decisions are made. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that I don't think. I mean, obviously, we're not going to see any solution to it, from one game to the next, but it doesn't seem to be going. And the amount of times we speak about it, and last season as well, it was always one weekend there was a terrible VAR decision or there was something that wasn't called to VAR, and you think, okay, they have the summer to rethink, but if anything, they've just made it worse. They've, like you said, they've made it the referee show now, and it's becoming a bit embarrassing. And I think it really should be reviewed, and probably Europe wide, not just within the FA, but something needs to be done about it. Will it be done? Probably not, but how many times can we sit here and say the same thing over and over again?
True. Yeah, like I said, we could have a whole show devoted to that, but we don't want to do that. We'd rather talk about Arsenal. Let's go talk about the another insane finish at the Emirates. I've lost count the amount of roller coaster games we've had there. I know Neil's been witness to a few of them. He wasn't there this time, so it's not his fault. I mean, I'll come to you, Neil, about Rice and how he came in clutch, as they say. I mean, what a moment for him after everything that he's gone through this summer, the pressure. Roy Keane, giving him pelters last season, saying, he doesn't score enough goals. He doesn't do it. He doesn't give assists or whatever. And I think it was great that Rice said to him, "Did you see me score?" Like before they went to the interview, which was fantastic. And But yeah, what a moment! And yeah, for me, the clips of him walking around, taking the applause and everything, while Rice Baby, while the fans were singing Rice Baby, and you could see he was embarrassed, but he was loving it, and the connection there, and they could just see the humility of the guy and how much it meant to him. But yeah, what more can you say about his performance? Because he was brilliant again yesterday.
I think his performance epitomises what he is as a person, because he's a tremendous guy. From what little I've seen of him so far, I'll take you back a little bit, Lauren. I don't know if you know much about Tony Adams, but in those days we used to have players that had utter loyalty and were just almost like the spokesperson for the club, and they had so much about them in terms of leadership, how they came across. And it reminds me a little bit of Tony Adams, Michael. And he's shown loyalty to West Ham. I think if Arsenal go and be successful with maybe great performances, lifting a couple two or a major couple two, I think he might be here for the long haul, which is quite unusual this day and age with all the money that goes around. But I can see it in him. And what really strikes me about the player, he's so thrilled and enamoured to be at Arsenal. He truly is. He's not making it up. I still don't think he quite believes it. And that's unbelievable considering he scored the winner in injury time against Man U. I still don't think he quite believes it. He was like, I can't wait to get home to watch it. It's like,
yeah.
He's like a fan. And that's why the fans love him. And that's why the fans can relate to him, because it's like, this is how we would be if we were in his shoes. Everything about him. He's got the leadership about him. You can see he's vocal. He plays with a smile on his face. I mean, that's something. I mean, of course, you're going to smile after a moment like that, but he is enjoying his football at Arsenal, and he's just loving the fact that he's part of it. And I don't think anyone would expect to score such a dramatic winner in the way that he did against, arguably what used to be, what still some consider to be, the tie of the season, Man U against Arsenal, because it's got so much history behind it now. And I haven't got enough to say about him, because I could go. You're saying we could talk about the refs all day. I'd rather talk about him all day. That's more relevant to me. Forget the refs and the officiating. We know it's all rubbish, but Rice isn't. He's the polar opposite, and I think he's going to be so important. And he's worth every 105 million grains of rice that we pay for him. He really is. I hate this money lark in football. I can't stand it. It's ridiculous, but it has gone that way. But he's one of the ones which is. And, if anyone was going to have pressure on them because of a price tag, it would be him. And look at the way he's dealing with it. It just shows the strength of his character. Yeah. I could go on all day, and I'm going to shut up because if Lauren wants to come in. But amazing, absolutely amazing. And thrilled for him that he got the winner the way he did, not just for us, but for him as well.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, as Neil said, in terms of like Tony Adams, he got it. He knew what it meant to play for Arsenal. He knew the rivalries. He knew the history and everything. Rice said the same in his press post chat, Lauren, yesterday, when he said, he knows growing up what these two games meant, what the games meant against Man United. So he gets it. And I think, as Neil said, if we were to land something really major, I think that, eventually he'll become, if not vice captain, captain of the club. And, if he's winning stuff, why would he want to go anywhere? But I mean, you want to touch on his performance yesterday and just that moment, again, amazing moment at the Emirates.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much more I can say. I think, he got player of the match, obviously, but I think even in the first half, he looked like the best player on the pitch. You talk about vice captain, him potentially becoming captain. I don't think he needs that. I think he's just a natural leader, and whatever position that he plays in, he's the one who's telling, I think it's slightly more vocal than Martin Odegaard, but like I said, Martin Odegaard brings that passion. Martin Odegaard always reacts, and, I think his actions speak louder than his words, but Declan Rice is a proper leader. And just to touch on that goal, it was so reminiscent of Nelson's goal, I think, back last season. It just seemed as though time stopped as that ball, I think Rice said he got it on his chin, and it felt like a lifetime before the ball left his foot and went in. But it was so reminiscent, and he looked like he loved it. He looked like he really, really enjoyed it. And I think that's something as well that we can't take for granted. You know, obviously I guess he's from London as well. He knows what it's like to be in, you know, with fans. Maybe he didn't grow up supporting Arsenal, but, you know, for that passion that really, you know, what it feels like to be in those moments and to experience those moments. And for him to be the person bringing that moment, I think, you know, it sounds a bit cheesy, but it looked like a dream come true for him. He has been class ever since he was announced. I think you think back to his announcement, his announcement with the club, and you know, he was suited out. It showed how much it meant to him to be there, and he's not taken this lightly at all. Every time that he's called upon to give a post-match interview, he speaks honestly, he speaks candidly, and he speaks absolutely fearlessly. He is so open and genuine, and I think, like you said, the way he plays reflects just the kind of person he is. And you know, Roy Keane obviously has given him a bit of guff, but I think that's just because he switched from the Irish team to the English team. So I wouldn't be taking that too seriously from him now. I think he's a bit bitter, as we all are. But you know, obviously, all's forgiven now that he's whipping out performances like this. It was exceptional. And you know, we're 5 games into the season. He doesn't seem to have cracked under any of the pressure that's been put on him. If anything, it seems to be encouraging him to perform better. And you know, like we said, these are the kind of players that we need in matches like this. And we're going to have more matches like this. We're going to have at least 10, 15 matches like this where we need someone to produce the goods. And, you know, it mightn't be Declan Rice every time, but I think having someone like him on the team is going to inspire other players, maybe younger players. And yeah, honestly, what a signing. What it you know, that's the luxury signing that I think everyone should be focusing on, and a luxury player. We're very lucky. We're very, very lucky. And yeah, just excited to see what comes, because you know, it can only go up from here, really, can't it?
Absolutely. It's I still watch the game and I still can't believe that he's our player. You know, I was my oldest daughter, who's 8, she even knows who he is. Like, whenever she sees him on the street, she goes, "Oh, that's Rice." And then when she saw him score the goal, and I sent you the voice note, you know, we were going crazy here, and the kids were screaming. And I sent the voice note to Neil, and he could hear it and all. And she was like saying, "Yeah, Rice scored." I said, "Yeah, that's why we spent all that money on him to do that." But yeah, obviously that was amazing, Neil. But the icing on the rice cake was obviously Jesus going through. And I think, I don't know, I've spent like probably most Arsenal fans. It's my first day back at work today. I've been on leave with the kids, and know that my employers aren't going to be watching this. But to be honest, I didn't do that much work. I would just spend most of my time watching memes and content of Man United fans crying, watching their reactions. It's been an amazing day. Nice sunny day as well. Got myself an ice cream. It was amazing. All I was missing was a popcorn. But watching the memes of Dalot sliding across, and there's one where he's sliding, he continues to slide, he goes across space and the sun, and to this really sort of cheesy 90s techno music, just unbelievable. But Neil, what can you say? Because he looked like, again, I think as Lauren touched on, people coming in and you know, contributing from the bench. You know, it's happened a lot this season. So that's why don't you take Havertz out again and let him try and do that? But what can you say about his cameo? Because he looked strong, he looked aggressive, he got booked. This was his first goal against Man United, apparently. He didn't score for them against City. And he's also got this crazy stat where he's scored in 57 league games and he hasn't lost in the Premier League, which is insane. But yeah, what about him? What a great thing is to have him back, you know, and look at him playing like that and the options that we've got. I think personally, you know, I said it last season, I think he could be the one to play on the right-hand side if he wants to give Saka a rest, because he knows Jesus will do the same things. His ball retention is really good. His defensive side of the game is really good, as we know. You know, Pep said it, Arteta said it. He's probably the best defensive centre forward or striker in the game. And he's played on that right-hand side for Guardiola as well. But what can you say more about this guy and his performance, Neil?
What can you say more? Summed it up. There's not much left to say. I think let's just quickly touch on just a couple of quick things. I think people have been critical of Arteta's substitutions and the timing. I think his timings are still need to be a bit questioned. However, the substitutions he's made this season so far have been brilliant. I think they've all worked out really well. I think a negative that's come from Jesus is my fear is now Eddie's going to get sidelined again because and look, end of the day, I don't know about you guys, but I do get close to certain players and I feel bad for them when they don't get chances. However, my overriding thing is we've got to do what's best for the club at all times. And if Jesus is the better answer in certain games than Eddie, then it has to be that way. And I think that's down to the manager. He gets paid a lot of money to manage these situations. It's not just about managing how a team plays. It's about man managing as well and managing these individuals to the best of his ability. But that's the only detriment that I can see because his performance was unbelievable. The goal, I mean, if you even just take the goal, what composure, how calm was he to do that to the defender and then just slot it past the goalkeeper? And it's just like, all right, maybe the pressure was a little bit off because we effectively had already won the game. But even still, to finish off a goal like that was incredible. I've watched, to be honest, you might hate me for this, but I've watched that back more than the Rice goal because I thought that was just class because it was an amazing assist. Again, from Vieira. How many times are we going to mention him? 65 minutes over 2 games, 100% pass accuracy from Vieira. What another class substitution. I mean, we've got something that Arsenal have lacked in years, which is depth. When I look at the bench now, I'm like, is that us? Look at the players we've got on the bench. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Trossard, Emma Smith-Rowe, Jesus, Vieira, Fabio Vieira, Raya, the goalkeeper. I mean, even Kiwior hasn't been doing too badly as a defender. I mean, look at the bench that Tomiyasu, if he doesn't start, he's on the bench. I mean, whoa, this is something that we've not had for a long time. So I think we are in a really, how can you say, almost like a good position to maybe mount some kind of challenge to Man City. I mean, Man City are flying. They're unflappable at the moment. They're a machine. But we've got a really good chance to try and keep up with them this season with the squad we've got. I think another headache for Arteta with Jesus playing so well. Who's he going to start with now?
Yeah, interesting. I think he's definitely looked at City what they did last season when they had a very small squad, and he seems like he's doing the same and just making sure it's packed with quality players that come in and the level won't drop. You know, especially with the games coming up. I mean, touching on the big games coming up, Lauren. Obviously, the really big ones which we're glad to be back in is the Champions League, and obviously the draw was made, and we have PSV, don't we, on the opening night at home, which is going to be really special. And obviously, it's been such a long time. Well, it feels like a bit of a lifetime, but it's only been like 6 years. But what's your thoughts on that? I mean, talking with Neil, I think we've just got to go in there thinking the Seville game is going to be the one away. The Seville away is we need to sort of make sure we handle business because we come away from that game with a point. Let's say we should be comfortably enough we should have enough to finish top of that group because they are. You know, we did beat them last season, the pre-season, we beat them 6-0, didn't we? And in the pre-season game, and obviously since then they've gone on to win another Europa League again, and obviously they've beaten that along the way. But what's your thoughts on that group? Do you just think it should be not too complacent, but there is some elements of maybe hurdles to clear just to keep our minds open?
Look, to be completely honest, I think it's probably one of the nicest draws we could have got. In terms of the top seeded groups, if you're going up against a team, I think Sevilla was probably the best. To be completely honest with you, I mean, even last season they barely stayed afloat in La Liga. Honestly, I think they're going to go through this group looking to finish third to push for another Europa League. So I honestly don't think that we should have that much to fear from them. To be completely honest. I think probably that home game is hard, but I think every other team's looking at that group going, yeah, apart from us, they have a really good chance of qualifying, honestly. Again, it's great because I think, you know, we're not facing the likes of Bayern. We didn't get drawn in Newcastle's group, thank goodness, because that's a nasty one. But look, I think it could have been much worse. The only issue that we face here is maybe, like you said, getting a bit complacent and thinking that we have it in the bag. We can't take any of these teams for granted as Champions League, but I'm to be completely honest with you, I'm very, very confident that we're going to come out with this top. I think Sevilla is going to be a tough game away. Maybe PSV also. But honestly, I mean, I can't sit here and say I watch Sevilla every week in, week out, but from what I've seen of them, they don't pose much of a threat at all. Even if we were to play a severely weakened team, or a heavily rotated team, shall we say? I don't think we can call it weakened anymore, given the depth that we have. But I think we have a lot of wiggle room there to actually focus on the Premier League and get those really, really important points in that run up to Christmas, and then on the back end, when fingers crossed we get through the group, the games are going to be a bit more challenging, with all due respect to the teams that have been drawn against us. I think in terms of the quality that we have, we should get through that group very easy. I think we should be very happy with that. Again, not be complacent, but it's a great opportunity for some of those players who are struggling to get into the starting 11 to take their opportunity when they get it and show Arteta exactly what they can do. And that's what keeps the City team so competitive, is that when those players get their opportunity to shine, they take it and they run with it. And Pep rewards the good performances. So no, overall I was really happy with that. Like I said, I think we could have got a much tougher group, and I think it puts us in a nice position to A, qualify from the group, and B, focus, like I said, on the Premier League games in the meantime as well, and whatever cup competitions we have.
Yeah, because we've got Brentford away, haven't we? Which has been rearranged as well, so we've got that to deal with. And I don't know I think Raya can play in that game. I think there's an agreement that he can play even though he's on loan, but we'll see. So it's going to be interesting. I won't ask Neil's thoughts on the Champions League, because he normally thinks we're going to do the quad anyway, so he obviously thinks we're going to get through with a 100% record. I'll just ask you quickly, both of you, depending on where we are in January, do you think with Thomas Partey's injury, we really have to try and maybe get a centre midfielder in, just so we've got some insurance in the running? Because again, he's broken down again. He's so early into the season, they're saying 6 weeks. He broke down last season, and then the season before. So, Neil, do you think, Arteta and they are working on that? I imagine they are, or do you think they should? Because obviously we've got to make do now with what we've got until January. But I just think if we're in a good position, we just maybe need to cover our bases. Do you think?
It seems to be a recurring muscular injuries he has, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, it is a bit of a worry. If we are to lose him again, we could arguably think that we are short in the midfield. Yeah, I do agree with that. Because who's there otherwise to come in to slot into that place? There's not many. I mean, we've got El Neni, of course. Again, no disrespect to El Neni. I think he's just a wonderful human being, and he does his job when he's asked to. But he's not a progressive type of attacking midfielder or that kind of player. He hasn't got that vision that maybe you'd want from a team that is trying to play in that style. And I also think that we could end up being short in defence, believe it or not, as well. Because if you look at the situation where we've lost Tierney, we've lost Timber, we don't know when Timber's going to come back. I mean, everyone says it could be early as March, but by March the season's almost done, and you don't know how effective he's going to be. I mean, you don't want to bring him back too quickly because you don't want to risk his career, which is the most important thing. I'd rather just save him till the next season. Now it is what it is. Everyone's really upset by it, but what can you do? And let's just hope he comes back better in the next season rather than try and rush him back in this one. So I would argue to say that we might need someone actually in defence, because if we have an injury there, it's either Saliba or Gabriel, God forbid, or maybe one of the others, I think we're short. And if Partey's also injured, then we can't even bring Partey in that position, which we don't like. Yeah. But we haven't got an option of bringing him back. So I would go as far as to say that potentially maybe loan someone in defence and maybe get someone in the centre mid. I actually think 2 positions. I was going to talk about the Saka cover, but you were brilliant earlier by saying that Jesus can play that role. And that would mean Eddie can play as well.
Yeah.
Or Trossard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
And, that opens up so many different variations. And Saka finally can get a rest. So I think defence or midfield, centre midfield possibilities they might look at in January. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think there's someone put out Jorginho has agreed to sign someone in Turkey, but people saying that's nonsense. But he obviously would be he's the next in line, obviously, if something was to happen. But obviously, if you just forgot him. But El Neni, yes, again, off a knee, of coming back off of a bad knee injury as well. I just think. What do you think, Lauren? Would you just think that we just need to get some cover there, just some insurance, especially with the running? If we're in the competitions that we think we've got to obviously compete in, to compete on the fronts, we're going to definitely need someone, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. But like Neil said there, I think it's more defensive in terms of, that cover for right back, we're fairly stretched as it is. I think, in terms of that central defensive role, had Partey picked up this injury last season, we would have been sweating it, going, oh God, Lokonga's going to have to step in. And it's, it's a massive call for him. Wasn't up for scratch. But look, we have two quality players that can step into that role. In the meantime, when Partey's injured, being Rice and Jorginho also, and then he also, for maybe some of the cup games, I think, he obviously offers probably more off the pitch than he does on the pitch now, but he's, he is a great squad player to have, and there's a reason why he's sticking around. I think Arteta really does value him. I think defence is probably the position that we need to strengthen up, and particularly that right back. Apart from Ben White, Tommy Asu seems to be favoured now on the left hand side. So, yeah, I'm starting to question that really. And I think just to touch on the Saka point again, what more does this man have to do to get a rest? Like, do you know what I mean? Obviously, look, it's incredible. He is an exceptional player, and he is, basically the face of this new generation Arsenal, I think, in so many terms, and everyone's star boy, everyone loves him. But he's 21 years of age. We're running the risk of, long-term injuries if we keep playing him at the level that we're playing at, if we keep expecting the same numbers to come in. I just don't understand. I mean, I thought last season maybe it was something to do with, him extending his contract, him staying on. But now, he's committed to Arsenal. Why can't we give him a break? And we've more than enough depth there. Even Reece Nelson, I'm so excited every time he steps on the pitch. And last season when he came on, I think it was Saka got injured in one game and he came on and scored 2 goals. Yeah. He hasn't put a foot wrong every time he's been called on by Arteta. And I think it's really unfair on him that he hasn't had a look in. So I think the depth's there. I think defensively is probably the issue that we should look at strengthening in January. Let's see how we get on. But no, there's more. I think it sounds awful, but that's actually, a positive to take from the Partey's injury. That being, if this was this time last season, we would have been saying, right, season's over, we're out of it, ciao. But this time around, we have the depth there, we have the experience, we have the quality, and it just shows the massive strides that Arteta is taking with this team season in, season out. And, every window now, every transfer window is an opportunity just to strengthen even more. And, full faith in him and Edu for what they're doing, because so far they've done it brilliantly.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I'm so sorry, I forgot about Jorginho.
How dare you, Neil?
So I apologize. Sorry, Jorginho. So
it's the problem with the really dense squad now. I mean, don't remember half the players' names anymore.
But you're right with about Nelson, Lauren. I mean, because that was his first minutes of the season, and he came on and he was really busy, and he was the one that won the tackle against Rashford, which led to passing to Vieira, who let Jesus go away and score again. A substitute coming on and contributing really massive moments in the game. So yeah. On that note, we'll leave it there. It's been obviously a great chat with obviously a fantastic result against United. It's always good to stick on them, and we've done it again. But just before I finish, I've got a question for you guys. Just multiple choice question, and it's just talking about the 3 incidents that happened yesterday. And I want you to know, or see, Neil will probably get his question right because he knows me so well. But I'm not sure about you, Lauren. But 3 incidents happened yesterday, and I want you to answer which one do you think I found the funniest incident. Right. So incident 1 is Lisandro Martinez injuring himself when he tried to injure Eddie Nketiah. 2, Man United thinking they won the game when they obviously hadn't. And 3, Ten Hag's head loss on the touchline at the end of the game. Which one of those 3 incidents do you think I found the funniest?
Go on, Lauren.
I'm between B and C. I think I'm going to go with B. United fans thinking they won. That's me locked in.
Neil?
I would have said that as well. I'll say C.
I'll tell you what the answer is. You're both wrong. The answer is all three. I found all three of them absolutely hilarious.
You can't do trick questions. That's not fair. You can't do that.
We didn't read the fine text.
That's not fair at all. Sorry.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for your time, Neil. A pleasure as always, man. And
Thanks, man.
Obviously, you did a show earlier with Jack and Purely Arsenal one, so that'll be out soon, I imagine. So everyone, check that one out. Lauren, obviously, thank you so much. Fantastic debut. You obviously, everyone can find you on your podcast with Tom. And it's an Arsenal thing. Got to keep remembering the getting name right. Jiggle it around. But yeah, fantastic podcast. Please check that out as well. And hopefully, if you liked it today, we'd love to have you back when you're free. Fantastic
Absolutely.
stuff. We'll be back. Obviously, it's international break, but I might get a show in next week just to recap how things are and what we think of what Arteta's done in terms of the squad, what he's built so far, and the systems, and obviously the games to come, and obviously look ahead to the Champions League as well. So,
sorry, just to interrupt you as well. The women are actually back in action tomorrow as well. They've got
they've been having their pre-season as well. Yeah, I saw that. I saw one of the ladies got injured, didn't she?
Wouldn't be like the Arsenal women to get injured, but they're back in action tomorrow. It's actually one of the Champions League qualifiers. So if you're missing the Arsenal in the meantime, you can check that out tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I just hope. Obviously, Beth Mead's back in training as well, so that's going to be massive as well. So. Yeah, great to have the ladies back in action. Going to try and get to a game with the kids. Actually, we want to get them to the Emirates, and we think take them to a ladies' game would just be a nice way to ease them into the crowd and everything like that. So we're going to try and get them down there. So thank you guys. Thanks for all the support again as usual online on the socials. I did get a comment last time round, which wasn't particularly nice. And obviously, we do appreciate comments on there, but anything that's kind of abusive or racist is pretty much a no-no. So, just don't do it. Don't be an idiot. Really. That's all I can say in that regards. But no, thanks for watching. You can catch this on Spotify, on Acast and Anchor as well. All good podcast platforms. And I'll be back next week. So thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
So thanks for your time as always. Really appreciate it. And up the Arsenal.
Man, remember, Giroud into the box, and they have immediately.